And welcome to Navigating Now. My name is Norm Ralph, co-founder and COO here at Thoughttium. And today I'm in the captain's chair. It's good to be back. It's been a little bit, but I'll say even as I was reflecting coming into today, it's been such a journey to be part of this platform. Today we're already on episode 138. So for us, this has been such a platform of storytelling, bringing community leaders together and talking about things that matter most. So excited to create some space today. We've got an incredible guest. Looking forward to really having some chance to chop it up today. So for those that are joining, just a few housekeeping items. First, want to welcome those that are tuning in on LinkedIn. We've got such a great LinkedIn presence. We always love hearing from you, both informing these topics, but also engaging us with this in this dialogue. For those tuning in on YouTube, this is always such a great place to be able to tune in on your own time. So this is something that I often do in those quiet mornings, in those late evenings, the opportunity to feel really connected to this growing community. So with that, we've got a really exciting topic today, getting comfortable in the uncomfortable. Again, this is episode 138. We've got Susannah Dellinger, the CEO and founder of Bright Beauty Collective, just an inspiring, great leader who is demonstrating what it looks like to thrive amongst change. I've had the opportunity to be in partnership with Susannah, both in business and life. And with that, I welcome you to the table. Susannah.
Hello, I'm so excited to be back at the table with you.
Well, we always like to start our connections with just a simple question of how are you doing coming into today?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be back here today. I was sharing with you last night that I looked back at our last conversation, which was almost 100 episodes ago, which congratulations to you guys. It's incredible.
Thank you.
And it's so fun to be here a year and a half almost later to talk about the incredible journey that it's been alongside you.
Well, something that's been coming up for me recently is just the ability to pause in these moments. Like you said, 100 episodes ago. And it's so fun that we were able to document the journey, a chance for us to look back a year ago and for us to have like this opportunity. What I've been saying recently is to savor these moments. So we've got an opportunity today to do some reflection, some savoring, and just a bit of sharing this journey together. So let's maybe first start with just a brief introduction. So for those in the community who haven't had a chance to meet you and get to learn a little bit about Bright Beauty, why don't you just share just a brief introduction of the work that you love to do and a bit about that mission-driven agency?
Absolutely. So, our agency, Bright Beauty Collective, is a retail sell through agency that covers the US and Europe currently. And we are focused solely on supporting conscious beauty brands. Our mission that lights me up, the work I love to do, is we truly believe that we can change the world by changing the world of beauty. And don't let me get started on that because then it'll be a 5 hour episode of all of that I believe in. But what we do is we support beautiful conscious beauty brands and retailers like Blue Mercury, Sephora, Neiman Marcus, Bergdorf Goodman, and we move the product off the shelf and get our brand partners the ultimate reorder from their buying partners at that retail level.
And what I'm really excited about is to have an opportunity both to share more about the agency, but also just this process. Again, the growth process, what it's like to be a small business, what it's like amidst a changing business environment, but also as a growing firm. I mean, there's so much about the opportunity that it presents, but also the real challenges and the big decisions. So as
Yeah.
you and I were talking about, we scheduled this, maybe several months ago, and we just had a placeholder. And I'm so glad that we've got this window because I feel like this is a really unique time. We've got the ability to look at change being a true strategic advantage for a small business. And I know for you, change also has a personal connection. So as we think
Mhm.
about that term, being comfortable in the uncomfortable, maybe share with our community, like what does that mean for you? And
Yeah.
what's your connection to thriving in change?
I would say that's everything, right? As a CEO and founder is learning that skill of how to be comfortable in the uncomfortable because it's all uncomfortable because especially when you've never done it before. And I was really thinking about it recently because it's been a wild 2 years of where we
Mm.
started to where we are now. We're in year 2 and it's just every 3 months, it's a different agency as we continue to grow, which is really fun to be a part of. But I was thinking about where did I really get that skill to embrace that or even look for that
Mm,
consciously? And I really believe I learned it from my father. My father was a labor lawyer and was part of a very well known, nationally known law firm, argued in front of the Supreme Court, could have easily stayed in that firm where he was as a partner. He was partner there for the rest of his
mm,
life. But he walked away from the security of that back in the 80s when that wasn't normally a thing that people did, especially people with families and mortgages and people to feed. And he went out on his own because he was actually mission driven. He
mm.
really wanted to have fewer clients, deeper relationships, a very Jerry Maguire-esque, type of mission of how he really wanted things to be done. And my mother worked alongside of him, and she would answer phones for the first bit out of a broom closet, right?
Mm.
To get things done. And he had walked
Yeah.
away from this beautiful, penthouse, type level office into that. And of course, he went on to have a very successful law firm. But a few other things that he modeled for me was in his actual charter of that law firm that he founded. It says, above all else, have fun. And so
Mm.
those two things have stayed with me this whole time, which is learn to be uncomfortable, learn to take risks, but also remember why you're doing this and have fun with it.
And you just think about that tie back to legacy, and again, the model that he demonstrated for you.
Yeah.
It really allows you to have maybe even a different relationship with your business, to look
Yeah.
at it with such pride, with such conviction of what it's like to be a mission-driven agency.
Yeah, I mean, he modeled so much of it for me too, just even boundary setting. He was home
Mm,
every night for dinner. He was always around on weekends. He wasn't at all these client events. He made it a priority. He actually turned down certain types of clients so that he could always be with his family. So even now, as I've shared with you, offline, is that that's a big focus for me is how with a
yeah.
4-year old that I can still create that space. And it's just really interesting that all these years later, I lost my father when I was 19 years old. I'm currently almost 44. So, all these years later, for me to have this completely different perspective of him as a person,
Mm,
but also to really see that influence that sits there in the subconscious that I can now bring forward. So, I consider that a true gift with this journey that I've been on of having him right by my side, even though he's not here.
it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to witness. Well, let's start with just some context. As you mentioned, we a year ago today we were sitting here, talking about the agency at that inflection point, just considering a little bit of maybe the size of the considerations or how you were maybe even speaking to or positioning, the agency at that time. So let's do a little bit of a look back. So we look
Sure.
back a year ago,
Yes.
share with the community what was going on at the agency a year ago.
Yeah, well, I'll say what's changed since a year ago. So,
Yeah.
since we last talked, a year ago, I was excited to have just broken 20 people here at the agency in terms of our field, and now we're upwards of 80 in the
Hmm.
year. We've now expanded into France. I had no plans this past year to go international, but that's what we did. We have grown so rapidly. We are now in over 20 retailers. When we spoke last, we really only supported three. Now we support
Hmm.
20 retailers and growing. We just got a call to go support another retailer today. So
Great.
it has been wild. We have added an amazing team, amazing staff since you and I last were at this table together. I was
Yeah.
fortunate enough to bring on a full-time VP of sales, the incredible Colleen Hammond, who I had the pleasure of working with earlier in my career. I have a full-time director of education, the amazing Alexis Orlando, who's with Laura Mercier for 20 years. And we also have 4 full-time account executives. I do things like have payroll now through ADP. Like, this is a real. I remember when I had ADP on my first paycheck as an employee. So that was a big
Yeah.
moment that we just had as an agency. So it's been incredible, incredible growth since we last spoke, and it's continuing to happen every day here.
And as that growth has happened, maybe share with us those different moments where you had a chance to pause and celebrate. Because one of the pieces that sometimes can be easy, especially as you're moving fast, as some of us, including myself, are high achievers, and we're always looking for what's next. It can be easy to overlook and pause and gain some perspective for what has, over the last
Yeah.
month to 3 months to 6 months, and you look back and you're like, wow, that feels like that was 2 years ago, and that was just last month.
Yeah.
So, curious as you've had a chance along this journey, along this, fast growing path,
Yeah.
Talk to me just about that ability to create some space and pause and to look back and really celebrate that journey.
Yeah, and that's been a really incredible gift to be able to do that. Coming from sales in my previous corporate life, I always tried to teach my people in the field to do that as well. And I would say,
Mm,
when you're climbing the mountain, you got to stop and enjoy the view before looking at the next mountain you're going to climb, or else you're going to get exhausted, right? So
yep.
trying to embody that and live that now myself and take my own advice in that to look around and celebrate that. And you've been incredible right there by my side, having us do that every quarter as an agency to look back, and it's crazy. So some of the things that we've been able to do is we have broken incredible sales records for so many of our clients within just 90 days of launches with them. We have achieved amazing success within the retailers, that we have buyers calling us, congratulating us, saying that we've broken the retailers' records.
Mm,
But I think what I am the most proud of that we have been able to achieve is that we have done this with some sense of harmony, of a work-life balance. I come from a background of being in corporate for 17 years, where we would have these incredible wins and victories, where we'd break records or set records and get all these accolades. But I'd be sick all the time, or I was never
yeah.
around, and I was missing out. And here it is that I'm able to disconnect at 3 o'clock and go pick up my kid in pickup line. My VP of sales is able to do the same thing. My head of education, all of our field is able to do the same thing. We've been able to actually carve it out to where we're winning deeply for ourselves and our
Hmm.
clients, but also in a way that still fills us with joy. It's
Mm,
been really great to see. And I do have to say, this team is incredible. They have taken on so much. We launched 3 new brands in 5 retailers in 30 days at the beginning of
hmm.
this year. And I remember you and I were sitting on one of our quarterly look backs. I said, "You guys, this is nuts what we just did. This is so crazy. We have to stop and look." And we're so in the day to day of it sometimes that we don't even realize what we just pulled off.
Mm.
And it's been great.
Yeah, that ability to pause at those inflection points and to celebrate both the small moments and the wins, but also the big ones. I mean, it's easy to look at the big wins, but sometimes we also forget we've had of the evolving and growing relationships, even just the chance to mirror back and reflect
Yeah,
back how important it is to have those relationships. And I know you do
that's
such a
the
good
key.
job of building relationships. And I know you have such a partnership forward approach in your
Mhm.
leadership. And in many ways, that's also what informs the brands that you partner with, the way that you are working with the retailers and the agency you're building. So, maybe just talk to us a little bit about like what does the mission driven component
Yeah.
of your leadership and of your business, like how does that show up for you?
Well, first, I would say, just to touch on mentioning how the partnership is so at the core of what we do at the collective. We were able, fortunately, so fortunate to start our year off with going to one of our brand partners in St. Simon's Island with our
Mm,
leadership team to spend time with the brand, with the founder, literally where they're making the product, and just spend real time together, at meals together. We went on a fun ghost tour as a team with the brand, and it was so fun to just truly be at the table, quite literally,
yeah.
side by side with our brand partner. And it was a moment for all of our leadership to sit around the table, reflect back what had just been accomplished for quarter 4,
Mm,
and some of these, amazing accomplishments. That particular brand partner, we had just grown to become the #5 conscious beauty skincare brand in their retailer, which was a very big deal. And to have that celebration, and that is part of our mission, is that we want to elevate the brands that are still self-funded, the brands that are
mm,
indie, right? That are going up against these mega brands. For those that don't come from the beauty industry, about 80% of beauty brands are owned by one of 5 companies that have very deep billion-dollar pockets. So you can imagine trying to advertise or market or do anything against them is going to be a losing man's game. So to
mhm,
have the strength of our field behind them and form those relationships has been incredible. Now with our mission, so our mission, again, as you know, like, it's not a small mission. We want to change the world. Like, I don't shy away from that being our true mission, and I don't mean that, in a figurative sense. I mean that in a literal sense. We really want to change the world through changing the world of beauty. Some people may ask why through beauty. The beauty industry is one of the largest industries in the world, right? We're talking about several billion, like several hundreds of billions of dollars is the market cap potential for the beauty industry. So when you're able to start to influence money, right? Money makes the
Mhm.
world go round. You're able to actually influence real change. And for us, that means brands that are conscious about ingredients that are safer for people to use, packaging that is going to reduce the amount of waste that is output. Fun fact, the second largest polluter of the planet is beauty. The first is oil and gas.
Mm.
It's not great company to be in, right? So we think
Yeah.
about how do we minimize that impact? And of course, single-use plastic is a big issue in the beauty industry. So we work with brand partners who are doing really fun, innovative things through, refillable products, products made out of recyclable packaging. Really great brand is using some packaging that can be composted, really cool brands like that. And then also really being conscious as well in, just how they treat people, right? Just having a really great mission where the majority of our brands are partnered with things like 1% for the planet, buy one, give one, that goes and builds schools in underdeveloped countries, just really using the power of the beauty industry to influence the rest of the world in a very positive way is what lights me up personally and lights up my entire team. And I think that's what makes us truly different.
Yeah, and I've seen that come through a lot in the why for the work, and whether that is in small conversations or you striking commercial partnerships, the clarity and the conviction of that mission comes forward. So as you think about, again, a very dynamic business environment, and it's easy as a small business to look at some of the revenue opportunities, or you look at some of those top line pieces, it's easy to say yes.
Yeah.
What's hard is to say no, and to say no based on the business you're building. So, I'd love to hear, especially
Yeah.
amidst a very dynamic business environment, like how has that informed maybe some of those big decisions where on paper that looks like a great idea, but you
Yeah.
check that back against your mission and maybe that's not the right fit.
I'm laughing because if you had told me a year ago that I would be literally making $1 million no's,
Yeah.
I would have said you're crazy. Because that's real, right? When you see that revenue opportunity in front of you, you say, "How serious do I take this mission? Can I make an exception for somebody that doesn't quite check all the boxes?" But we do take it very seriously. And I've learned to trust myself that saying no to not quite the right fit allows us to have that space that when the right yes comes in, we can pour so much of ourselves into
Mm.
it. And it creates such a beautiful moment that it just continues to attract the right fit that's here. We've turned down beautiful brands that I think are run by amazing people, brands that have, just really phenomenal product, but just aren't maybe quite there yet with their packaging or their ingredient or what they're doing yet with the planet. I'm excited to say I've had behind the scenes conversations with a lot of those types of brands that we have actually said it's not currently the right time. And our no's have actually opened up their discussions as to changes they want to start making within the next 12 to 24 months. You were actually on one of our pitch calls
Yeah.
with one of these brands and you heard us go through it. And it's just really incredible to see. And then our impact goes beyond just these brands that are starting to think about, wanting to become more conscious. We're actually seeing other agencies in our own space, which I consider peers and not just competitors. I consider it peers who do the same thing, just for different types of brands. Agencies that aren't conscious beauty agencies are starting to talk about that. They're
Mm.
starting to talk about what they can do for conscious beauty brands to help them in the space. They're starting to use similar language to us. And I just think that's great. I think if everybody joins the party, listen, we're going to get to where we want to go that much faster. And where we want to go is a planet that's here for a lot longer, is beautiful, habitable, and around for our great grandchildren. So everybody join the party as far as I'm concerned.
Well, yeah, and what I'm hearing is this combination of there can still be commercial success, and it can also be matched with some intention around how you're doing business. It's everything from relationships to the products that are being designed to the way that they're packaged and the way that it's positioned in the market.
And I would say to your question about the no's that we've given, it's not necessarily just to brands. Sometimes we say no to certain retailers, et cetera. And in addition, I would say that my biggest challenges have been from not when I didn't say yes, but when I didn't say no. That's what's gotten me
Mm.
into hot water as a CEO versus turning something down. So I've learned to lean into that no a little bit more.
Well, so let's talk a little bit about maybe the mindset. So we talked about some big decisions in a very fluid, especially as a small business. These decisions have real implications in terms of both top line and the team. But let's talk about the mindset. So as you consider what it's like day to day as a CEO, working with your leadership team, working with your account executives, maybe just share a little bit of like, how would you characterize the mindset for being comfortable in the uncomfortable?
Wow, I wish I could say I had like the perfect mindset for it and it was like super easy and came so naturally.
Yeah.
Every day is a little bit different over here with that. Just when you start to think that you're comfortable in that current uncomfortable situation, where you're like, I think I got this, I know this, I'm great. Then something else, bam, right? I think every entrepreneur, no matter their industry, can relate to that, comes out. And for me, it's telling myself, okay, I get 6 to 12 hours to like really be scared or upset about it or think I can't do it. And then in the morning, I got to put on my big girl pants and get to work and figure it out. Right. So there's been some very uncomfortable situations I've been in as of recently. One of them I've been vocal about, which was our struggles to get healthcare. We were turned down for healthcare quite frequently, as you know, because we had too many female employees, which that was
Hmm.
shocking and should be another subject for another podcast one day. So having to be honest with my team about it taking us much longer than we anticipated to be able to offer benefits. I felt like I was letting a lot of people down, and that was a very hard situation to get through. And just other situations like that continue to arise the larger you get and the more fun things you get to do, the more interesting uncomfortable situations you find yourselves in. But the reps, and Norm, you say this a lot, and it's that
Yeah.
reps of once you get the reps in, you learn, okay, I've gone through hard stuff before. I don't always know the answer, and that's okay. One of my secret weapons is I like to hire people that are smarter than me, such as yourself, who can help me figure out the answer when I don't know it. But just letting go of that idea that it's supposed to feel comfortable or it's supposed to feel like something that I can do or I'm supposed to already know the answers. I had to let that go and just
Mm.
realize it's completely fine that I don't, and we're going to get through it and really rely on that resourcefulness.
Well, one of your absolute superpowers is your ability to, like you said, be able to sit in it for a day, to realize I'm frustrated, I'm sad, this isn't what I would have expected, and to wake up the next day with the same level of conviction and decision making and drive. And that's easier said than done because as a small business owner, that doesn't happen once. That can happen multiple times within a given day. That can
Yes.
happen multiple times within a given week. But I've been able to witness, and I think, again, this is a real superpower of yours, is to take some of those really unexpected circumstances and to realize what you've got to do is you've got to be able to be able to process and sit in it. And it's messy and it can be unexpected. But then the next day, like your job is to get back to work. You've got your team
Right.
looking at you and saying like, let's get going. I believe in you. I believe in our business. And I know that we're going to figure this out. And
That's
like
it.
you said, you don't have to have all the answers. And I think that's
No.
one of the pieces that I've been able to learn over the last couple of years. And I'm still learning every day is I don't need to have all the answers. I may not have the clarity, but what I can do is I can create an environment where others can step in, where I can rely on the team and I can look to my left and my right and say, like we're in this together.
Mhm.
And I'm so confident in the team we have. So again,
Exactly.
I really appreciated the way that you've been able to demonstrate this because as a fellow small business owner, those are some of the tough times. Is
Yeah.
the true resilience for what it's like to be
Yeah.
exhausted and at a loss and being
Yeah.
asked to make decisions that are outside of your expertise and you've not seen this before,
Yeah.
and it can feel like the headwinds are coming at you, but it's like the next day you got to get up and you're ready to get back to work.
That's it. That's it. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember it was a very long time ago. It's probably almost a year and a half ago when even during one of our sessions where you were in town and people think like, oh, it just scaled like this, the agency, like so easy. We blinked, we said we wanted to do it, and I did it. It was, seeing the plan on paper in front of me and be like, I have no idea
Yep.
if I can actually do this. Like I see the plan, but I've never done this before. Can I actually do this? And I was in a dark room in bed, being like, I don't know what I just got myself into. But then the
Yeah.
next morning was like, well, let's go find out if I can. Might as well go find out. And I do, if anybody takes away anything listening to this, the message that I do want to have people hear is that you don't have to know how to do this. People used to ask me all the time when I was a corporate executive, would you ever want to run your own thing? I said, God, no. Like, that sounds like something that like other people who have
Hmm.
MBAs and went to Harvard know how to do. That's not something I know how to do. I went to school for theater. Secret,
Yeah.
I left after 2 years, right? Because it was a theater degree. Who needs a degree, right? So it's like that sounds like something for other people, but what you realize is nobody actually knows what they're doing. So if you
Hmm.
have the passion for it, the drive for it, and this voice inside of you that won't shut up until you do it, you should probably go try it. You
And
know?
that's where you and I have been so fortunate to start to build real community around other fellow business owners. And so,
Yeah.
we took what has been an amazing, informative, and super challenging 5 years of what it takes to build and run and grow a business and said, you're going to be going through that same journey. And we've got an
Yes.
opportunity to learn from each other. What I love to do is what I feel like is more of my calling and my practitionership is to be running alongside other leaders that
Mhm.
are going through that growth and change process, to be able to guide them through and say, this is normal. This is what you can expect. Have those tougher
And thank
conversations, those
God
moments.
for you doing that. Thank God.
But you and I have been able to do that together. And to me, if, one of the parts that I feel is such an honor is for you and I to be in that partnership together. And for me, it's the work that I love to do. It's the work that really does light me up. And it brings this combination of lived experience,
Mhm.
of human connection, and our ability to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. I mean, we're not
Yeah.
getting on the phone, always having great conversations about looking up into the right and saying, this is what growth looks like. Sometimes it's in the face of doubt, right? It's in the face of, can I do this? It's in the face of
Yeah.
like, what if I made the wrong decision? So to me,
Yeah.
being comfortable in the uncomfortable, and you use the word, putting in the reps, part of
Yeah.
it is like just being in the work. And so to me, one of the gifts that I've been able to have over the past couple of years is being surrounded by other small business owners that share very similar values and mindsets, that we can be in the journey together. And it's not limited to our business. There's parts
Mhm.
about our life, about us as individuals, about our own growth that's part
Yeah.
of this. And so again, for me, it's been such an honor to be like in deep practitionership with you, both in life, but also in building the business.
Thank you, friend. Like I say,
Yeah.
thank God for you. You have a very, very clear gift in being the one who can see people, right? But to also be able to make people feel that they're being seen. And as a small business owner, you can definitely think you're crazy, right? There's a little bit of that, like,
Mm,
oh my God, I think I'm bipolar. Because one day it's amazing. The next day it's done. We're gonna close shop. Like
yep.
we're moving on, right? Like that's the small business journey. But to have somebody with your experience that is past that 5 year mark, that's like, no, this is normal, Susannah. This is what
Hmm.
everybody feels. It gives you that, like, okay, I can keep going. I can get through this. I'm not crazy. I don't need to sit in a corner and rock myself back and forth because I messed up and I'm the only one to have ever messed up. Because guess what? I have made mistakes along the
Yeah.
way, right? I have definitely made mistakes like we all do.
And I'll say what also has come forward for me in our growing partnership has been, rather than you having to do it all yourself and figure everything out, or potentially like outsource it to somebody else, or feel like
Mhm.
it's a transaction. Instead, it's like, what are ways that can be a learning for both, that can be mutually beneficial, that's work that I might love to do that you maybe don't love to do, or you may not have as much experience, or
Yeah.
vice versa. It's like we've been able to have this like mutually beneficial, beautiful, growing relationship
Yeah.
that has been sitting at the center. And so I always imagine a world where that's the way business is done, where this intersection of community and business is
Yeah.
happening. You shared it in the beginning of having just an abundance mindset. Having the
Yes.
ability where I'm not looking at people as competitors. I'm not looking across and worried about. It's like instead, what I'm looking to do is surround myself with other passionate practitioners
Yeah.
where we can learn and grow together. And that doesn't mean it needs to look like what you and I experienced in our corporate setting. And so
Yeah.
what I'm excited about is like, I think that's part of what we share in common is the desire to do it differently. Like life can be
Yes.
different, business can
Yeah.
be different, partnerships can
Yes.
look different.
I completely agree. And throughout this past, I would say even this past year, right, of 2020 to now, that's something that I have even said out loud was I always said in my corporate days, if I was in charge, this is
Yeah.
what I would do. And now I'm the one in charge. So now it's up to me
Now
to follow what
it's
I
on you.
said to do it
Yeah.
differently because, that is something that I take very seriously is, the corporate experience within our industry. The beauty industry is very similar to the fashion industry in the
Mm.
aspect that it can be in the wrong hands cutthroat and highly competitive and very much pitted against each other and just not a place that lights you up. It's a place where might get Sunday scaries in a corporate environment. And again, going back to my father and his charter and saying, above all else, have fun. You guys, this is lipstick, my industry, right? This is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to make you feel
Yeah.
amazing. And it can be that way. This can be something joy filled and something beautiful and something mission driven and something that brings people together. And I feel that responsibility of modeling that because if we
Mm.
can show that, and I'm just going to say, I don't care if it sounds like I think that we're the best because we are the best, right? If we can show that at our high level of what we execute, that you can also do it with kindness and compassion and
Yeah.
harmony in your life, then it's going to model for everybody else that you can go do it. And
Absolutely.
God, may that be my legacy.
Oh man, so much there. I'm just going to sit with that for a second. So much there. So let's talk a little bit about the change for you as a CEO, particularly maybe over the last couple of months, because
Yeah.
we've had a chance to look back at your business. We've had to talk about just the mindset and what it takes to really see change and to be comfortable in the uncomfortable for the business. But what
Hmm.
about for you as a leader? Because I would say that I've been able to see, particularly over the last couple of months, you've been able to really elevate. You've been able to create some really beautiful integration between what matters most to you and how that also serves both your business and yourself individually. So, share a little bit about some of the big
Yeah.
decisions you've made or some of those critical shifts that have allowed you to really be able to embrace both.
I'm laughing because probably the most uncomfortable thing for me is letting go of control. And if
Mm,
anybody on my team is watching this, they're going to laugh as well because, like, yes, that is accurate. I very much like to control all aspects. But I realized I would say somewhat quickly, that in order for us to scale in any type of meaningful way, I had to empower the team that I had to step into the roles and I had to elevate myself out of a lot of the day to day. And I started that by hiring, like I said, a phenomenal VP of sales. That's just an absolute killer, Colleen. And, at one point, Norm, when in one of our sessions you and I had together at the beginning, you said, would you ever have somebody else run your field? And I said, oh, absolutely not. Like, that is
yes,
my magic. That
remember
is my
that.
team. That is what I do. No, 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 no. Those are my babies. And then you just said, but what would it look like if you did? And
Yeah.
it just started that process. And so allowing myself to let go of that control and to have somebody who just is so phenomenal in that role to come in, that I then had space in my week to have deeper conversations with brand partners and retailers and network and just and really have more of a macro level because as I've mentioned to you, I said, wait, if I am not actually driving this bus, who is? Right? If
Hmm.
I'm the one executing, if I'm the one operating it every day, who's the one watching out here if like there's like an iceberg coming, right? So I have
Right.
to be able to get out of the day to day pretty fast if I want to get to that 5 year mark, which I definitely do. So being able to really have that team step into their role to have phenomenal people like Colleen has been amazing. I had to say a lot of uncomfortable no's to ongoing meeting requests because our
Yeah.
clients were across the board, right? We're very used to me being highly involved in all meetings. And for me to say, actually, we now have assigned account managers, which is wonderful. They have one person they can go to with all of our accounts. It's much faster to get to one person than to try to get to, me and somebody. But I still am able, of course, to be pulled in as needed. That was hard to say, okay, guys,
Mm,
I'm not gonna be in all the meetings. And I still like I'll join occasionally, like, hey, like I miss you guys. Let me join this meeting. But again, I'm trying to squeeze in running an agency in between the hours of drop off and pick up at preschool.
yep.
Because what was very important to me was that when I am home, I am present with my daughter, right? That I am here for her. I am not having to be called away for a conference call every 15 minutes. Of course, if something's an emergency, I'm here, that time is protected. So if I know I only have between, okay, 7:45 and 2:45, then I got to pick what I can be a part of. And that's been mind blowing. And then the second aspect that I was able to add is I really carved out Fridays. to be the days that I don't take any type of call. Those are the days that I have myself, I get to rest or play. It could be a date with my husband. We're big fans of day dates after I drop off the kid to go get a beautiful breakfast somewhere or go to the beach. And what I found, because at first I was like, oh, this is selfish, right? This is selfish,
Yeah.
but I feel that I need this to fill my soul. I need this for myself. But I found it was amazing for my business because I was having this space to think big picture, to have these creative, wild thoughts that we do as an entrepreneur that sounds so big and crazy, but entrepreneurs, we do crazy things and they're amazing, right? Like we're the ones that can make these big, crazy dreams happen. And if you don't give yourself the space to have that big, crazy dream, you're dead in the water. So I
Mm.
actually think that that's 100% a non-negotiable in my absolute CEO tool belt is to have that space on Fridays. So it's been uncomfortable to protect that with people who are like, oh, but I need you for this, that, and the other, and to say no, this comes first, this priority. But I've learned to just say it is what it is. I'm not available.
Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe a couple things I'll comment on. First is, it's so easy when you're a high achiever and it's your business to be involved in everything.
Yeah.
And so the hardest part is to be able to start to elevate and really allow the team to step in. And it's not because you don't trust them, but again, I just feel like that's part of the transition. That's part of the learning for all of us
Hmm.
is what does it look like for you to be at the right altitude? You and I talked quite a bit about that of like, if you're focused on the day to day and the details, like who is looking up and out? Who is building those relationships that are going to really serve the business well, not for the immediate, but for, the next 6 to 9 to 18 months out, you're already
Yeah.
starting to have that altitude or that look. And so, it's something for us that, Anthony and I talk quite a bit about is, how do we truly create the space for ourselves and even in our own business to make sure that as we're continuing to grow an amazing team, that, to your point about like who's driving this, we've got to have people that are at the right altitude, that have the right
Hmm.
eye on, we want to continue to do great work. We want to continue to be client facing and focused. And at the same time, having an eye towards the big ideas or the ability to be restored and renewed, the
Hmm.
ability to have maybe the conversation that in the day to day you can't have. But if I have my Fridays available, maybe all of a sudden that's possible. So
Hmm.
while I'm not quite there yet, I certainly have started to recapture my mornings. I'll say
Yeah.
what I want to do is take a page from you on what you've been able to do with your Fridays, because it's so great to see your commitment to Lane, your husband, to your daughter, to your friends, or even to yourself to say like, I want to be able to create space for myself and really be able to nourish and renew so that I step back into the arena like I'm ready to go and I'm coming in at the right altitude. I've got the right team. They're supercharged. I'm supercharged, and let's go.
I totally hear you on that, and I welcome you to join my Friday party. But I will say for any listener that's like, "Wow, that's amazing. She does it every Friday," is ask me what I did last Friday. Okay. Last Friday, I was on the phone with payroll for 3 hours, getting something across the finish line and getting probably a whole new head of gray hair in the
Yep.
weeds. So it is not a perfect plan,
It's
because
never
there are
is.
emergencies as a small business owner that pop up that are very time sensitive. But I would say 90% of the time it's able to be done. But there is the real of sometimes
There
what we
is.
need to do.
Well, time flies as we're having fun. Not surprising that we were able to unpack that in such a short amount of time, and we could be on here all day long. So, what I want to
Yeah.
do is maybe just wrap up with a couple of questions as we close out today's conversation.
Only if I get to ask one question first to you.
Ooh, this is going to
Oh,
be a
turning the
first. All right,
table.
all right. I'll let you round us out with that. So let me start with just an easy one. What are
Yeah.
you reading, listening to, or
Mhm.
watching?
Oh, that is so good. Okay, so currently, I am listening to some hot seats from a mastermind that I belong to, because I learned so much when other people are sharing what they're going through as well. So I'm doing a lot of consuming of some backlogs of some masterminds that are really great. But I would also say that I am a voracious reader. I love to read. I am a
Hmm.
big, big, big fan of reading. Um, Growing up, I didn't have a TV. Fun fact, I just had books. And one of my favorite books that I just finished rereading is called The One Life Solution. And it's just a wonderful reminder that, trying to find balance is never going to happen, right? Like it's all about harmony and the actual integration of it all within your life, that there's truly one life we're living. It's one of my all-time favorites, and I hadn't read it in a few years. So I just finished that.
Beautiful. So we talked about, as a CEO, sometimes you've got to be comfortable in the uncomfortable stuff you've never seen before.
Mm.
You're making even big decisions, or, to use your word, resourceful. You got to be super resourceful. So what's something that would surprise people that either you've done recently or now you have experience in, that's not directly related to either your experience in the beauty industry or what
Mm.
it's like to be a CEO?
Interesting. Something I've made a
What
decision on
would surprise
recently.
people?
Oh, this is one that's stumping me. Since my life is so much into my agency, I would say, um, probably the most surprising thing for people would be the decisions that I'm making in terms of just like a couple things around the house. Like I'm making some decisions on whether or not to do a deck and some other stuff happening. But the majority of the decisions that I'm handling right now are 100% revolving around my child, where to find summer camp for them for June because she's only in for July, but also obviously for my agency.
Cool. And then last question from me would be, as we get together 12 to 18 months out.
Mm.
So just like we are now, what do you feel like we'll be talking about? What do we want to manifest that we're going to be talking about in 12 to 18 months?
Oh, well, in 12 to 18 months, you and I are going to be talking about our mastermind that we're
Mm,
going to be doing together and leading. Fun fact for your viewers is that lots of our clients want access to Norm because of this incredible input into our agency. So we're actually looking at hopefully putting something together beauty focused, taking all of the amazing Thought Team experience. So stay tuned.
great.
That's what I think we'll be talking about. And maybe we'll be talking about a fun retreat or travel somewhere together too.
Love it. All right. So it sounds like we're going to do a thought team first here. Looks like I'm on the
Yes.
hot seat to close this
Yeah.
out. What's the last question of the day here?
It's a fun one. Watching it
Okay.
back, you called yourself at the beginning of so this is January of 2022. You said that you are not a subject matter expert in the beauty industry. So I ask you, my friend, in May of 2023, with what you have now witnessed, would you
Yeah.
consider yourself at least beginning to be a subject matter expert in the beauty industry?
I'm laughing because we had a joke early on about the Chicago King of Beauty, because I had no experience or subject matter expertise on it. Across the street, we've got one of your retailers that I didn't even know that's what that was. I assumed maybe it was a dentist office or some type of maybe apothecary. So what I've learned is, our businesses are more similar than dissimilar.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot about the importance of the relationship and the differentiation that you can have in terms of the brand experience, or what it's like to be in like true partnership. And I'll say
Mhm.
along the way, I've learned to be a little bit dangerous about the difference between what BBC is doing in the market and maybe what some of your competitors or maybe an internal team might be doing. So I certainly
Yeah.
have learned enough to be dangerous, and I would say equally
Yes.
bringing an outside perspective. But I think there's more in common than maybe I had ever anticipated in our businesses.
I love that. And I asked that question
Yeah.
to prove a point to anybody that what you do and what Thought Team does, it is 100% above just a fintech type of industry. This is something that
Mm,
applies to any industry. There are such universal truths that apply from something so foreign to somebody like yourself in the beauty industry to
sure.
now be so comfortable with it. Because to your point, there's so many similarities. So
Absolutely. Well, Susannah, again, such an honor to be at this table with you. Appreciate just your viewpoint and perspective at this moment, our ability
yeah.
to pause, to be able to celebrate. Uh, you all are doing just such amazing work. Again, we love to be in partnership with you and your team, and we can't wait till 12 to 18 months out when we're back here at the table talking about
Yes.
the amazing year that was.
I love it. Thank you, my friend, always. Have a
All
beautiful
right.
rest of
Thanks,
your day.
everybody. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, everybody, from tuning in. We're here every Thursday, the ability to create the space to have dynamic leaders like Susannah at the table. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Goodbye, everybody.